Shanks stopping Kaido from coming to Marineford was already a crazy feat when they said it happened during Marineford, but all throughout Wano we saw just how powerful Kaido was, and that recontextualized how crazy of a feat it actually was. But one of the more interesting things we saw from Kaido during Wano was the fact that he decided to make an alliance with Big Mom. But because both of them were on Rock's crew, it makes total sense why they would make an alliance together. I'm sure if Kaido was gonna make an alliance with anybody, it would probably be somebody who was on Rock's crew. But at the same time, we've also seen him make alliances with other people who weren't on Rock's crew, those people being Caesar and Doflamingo. I know some of you might not consider this an alliance because they all don't have the same goals, but they are working together to some mutual benefit. And a big aspect of taking out Doflamingo was the fact that he's under Kaido, so he's nearly untouchable, because messing with Doflamingo means you're messing with Kaido. And you can kind of say the same for Caesar, but he's embroiled in this weird thing between him and Big Mom, so that's kind of a different story. In his alliance with Caesar and Doflamingo, his main benefit was the Smile Fruit, so he can make his crew even stronger. And in his alliance with Big Mom, he benefited by having enough power behind him that he could just plow through all of his enemies and get to the One Piece. I'm pretty sure that him and Big Mom also agreed that once they find the One Piece, they're just gonna fight to see who actually gets to claim it. And so knowing that Kaido is 100% willing to make an alliance if he can benefit from it, I don't see why he wouldn't just land on Marineford and see what the situation is and immediately just make an alliance with Whitebeard to fight off the Marines. And while defeating the Marines won't directly get him closer to finding the One Piece, it is gonna make it a lot easier. But another big thing we learned about Kaido is how much he loves a good fight, and I can't think of a better situation for a fight than temporarily allying with a former Rocks pirate and taking on the Marines on Marineford, because I'm sure the same stipulation that he put in his alliance with Big Mom is probably going to be put here too, where he temporarily allies with Whitebeard, and then after the stuff on Marineford is over, then they're gonna fight. And I think that's the best way to ensure that he does get to fight and probably kill Whitebeard, because if he just shows up and tries to kill Whitebeard while Whitebeard is already fighting the government, I think that increases the chances of something like what happened with Odin happening, because I'm sure once him and Whitebeard start fighting, an admiral or somebody is gonna just sneak Whitebeard to make sure he dies. And knowing how much Kaido hates that happened with Odin, I'm sure he'd do everything in his power to make sure it never happens again. As an added bonus, Whitebeard also knows what the Will of D is, and since Kaido is so obsessed with knowing what Joy Boy is, I'm sure he would want to know that. But it's been almost 2 minutes since I mentioned Shanks, so I'm sure you're wondering how he plays into any of this. It's been said that Kaido was on his way to Marineford to kill Whitebeard, but I don't know if it was ever definitively confirmed that that was his reason for going. But I don't think that Shanks was stopping Kaido for the sake of protecting Whitebeard. I think Shanks might have done it to protect the government, because even if my dumb alliance theory is wrong, any scenario where Kaido goes to Marineford ends with the world government taking an even heavier loss. But if Shanks' main goal was to protect Whitebeard, then why not just go to Marineford himself? Because while that may not help with them saving Ace, it will definitely help with saving Whitebeard. Rewatching Marineford, in every scene with Whitebeard, it seems pretty obvious that he knew he was gonna die soon. And while he really wanted to save Ace, I doubt he thought he was gonna get out of Marineford alive. And I'm pretty sure Shanks also knew that Whitebeard wasn't gonna get out of Marineford alive. It's genuinely debatable whether or not Kaido being on Marineford would have made it easier or harder to save Ace. But if Whitebeard was gonna die anyway, where is the benefit to Shanks going to stop Kaido and risking his own crew? It's never been confirmed whether or not Shanks stopping Kaido involved them fighting at all, but Shanks is familiar with Kaido, so I'm sure he knew that there was a risk that they might have to fight. But that brings me back to my last point, because what is the benefit to doing that with Kaido when you could just risk your crew to save Whitebeard if that's what you actually want to do? I can see the counter argument to that being that if Shanks goes to Marineford, then he's gonna have to fight, but if he goes to Kaido, there's a chance they don't have to fight. But my counter to that kind of argument is that the only way to 100% ensure Shanks doesn't have to fight is to just not get involved. We already knew that the world government views Shanks differently compared to the other emperors solely based on how Sengoku reacted to him at Marineford. Sengoku just gave in to Shanks' demands with no pushback whatsoever. And then later on in the series, we see that Shanks can just have meetings with the Gorosei whenever he wants. And we don't really know a lot about Shanks anyway, so there is a possibility that he has more of a reason to have the government not get destroyed by Whitebeard and Kaido than he does to keep Whitebeard from dying. I know a lot of that is diving really deep into conspiracy theory theories about Shanks being a villain, because there's also the possibility that Shanks stopped Kaido because that's the way to ensure the least amount of casualties on all fronts. But even if that's Shanks' reason for stopping Kaido, I'm honestly really sure that if Kaido went to Marineford and Shanks didn't stop him, Kaido was probably gonna make an alliance with Whitebeard and they were gonna destroy the government. Even if saying destroy is exaggerating a little bit, they both are still gonna win Marineford if they make an alliance. Regardless of whether or not Shanks knew that, I genuinely think that's what was gonna happen. So Shanks stopping Kaido guaranteed that Whitebeard wasn't making it out of Marineford. But that's all I got for now. If you like what you saw, then make sure to subscribe. I also stream on TikTok and Twitch, so you can check those out in the bio.